And then we go to my slides and proceed where we left off yesterday. And while I do that, is there any questions that came to your mind that you might want to ask from what we said yesterday?
I don't know if we're going to do it today or if it's off topic, but are we going to or are you going to share what your thoughts are on things like jinn and stuff?
On things like what?
Jinn. Do you know what jinn is?
No.
So jinn is like in is, I suppose, how can I describe it? In Islam, there's kind of like there's the human beings, there's the angel, and then there's the jinn. And the jinn
No
are
idea. Tell me about it.
So jinn are kind of like spirits that exist in another realm in some ways.
Yeah, is that what we talk about, spirit or spirit mind or higher self?
It's not of a person. It's something completely different. So when you were describing things like sometimes a spirit can take over you, that can happen. Like you believe that happens in Islam as well. But I just want and there's ways of how to deal with jinn. But I wondered if you were going to kind of say anything about that.
I don't know anything about jinn.
Okay.
I've never heard it. Very interesting. I will Google it for sure. When you said that in your tradition the jinn can takes over, is that like a possessive spirit?
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
So like I'm just looking up the definition, and here in like in the dictionary it says a jinn power allows a jinn to have an astral body that allows them to enter other people's dreams and give them access to possessive powers. That's like a secular meaning.
So that's interesting. So when we talk about astral body, we talk about the soul. That's how we define it. So jinn is soul, and that's exactly the entity, the detached, so without a body, that is trapped in the in-between world. Remember, that's the soul in our definition. That's jinn then, and that can jump onto others. That's exactly what we talked about yesterday.
Yeah. And you'll show us a way of how to kind of respond to that.
Yes.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay, thank you.
So that's interesting. So jinn is when you said from another realm, that is what we call the in-between world.
Yeah.
Yeah, the world between our physical world and the astral world. It is an astral body because it's a soul that is trapped in the in-between world, which is the other realm. And it can, because it's so close to the physical world, the in-between world, that psychics can easily communicate with, with spirits, which we call souls. So there's all this, some use spirits synonymously with souls. We do that the same. We say possessive spirit, but it's not the spirit mind that comes from the world of light. It is a soul. We should actually say attached soul, not attached spirit. I will actually change that. So we call it a soul because it's an astral body in our definition. However, that is synonymously used by other cultures as spirit, and soul and spirit is mixed up. And in this case, we now know that when we think about jinn in your culture, in our language, we talk about soul. It's a soul. It's the emotional energy of attachment or addiction that is trapped in the in-between world. Okay. Interesting. I learned something. That's really cool.
Yeah, I mean, Hiba might know more about these things than I do because I don't know about jinn.
For us in Islam, jinn is like a different type of creatures.
Uh-huh.
So like we are made of clay and they're made of fire, so it's like a totally different type of existence.
Well, if you think about it, we are made of clay. That's a physical body, but then we have the not made of clay body, which is the
Yes.
astral body. Yeah.
That's true.
And then
Yeah.
we have the other not lighter body from the word of light, with this spiritual body. So maybe that's exactly what Saida just said, that jinn is synonymously with the soul or the attached spirit that we talked about yesterday, that is depicted as made out of fire, maybe.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. So you will find, and that's a really good point, and I'm glad you brought it up, because I'm always insisting you don't believe anything. You will find that if you are going through spiritual literature, that if you really think about what they say, that they all talk about the same thing. They use different names, they do use different descriptions, but when you really go through the bottom of it, it's the same, because there's only one truth in the end. Yeah, of course, and there are interpretations, but if you go like to the most pure teaching of a religion, like for example, in Islam, is it Rumi? What is the
poet.
oh, yeah? Is that the
the poet,
base of and in Christianity it would be probably the Old Testimony, and in Hindu it would be the Vedas. If you read
I
these,
think I think what you mean then in Islam is the Quran. That's the name of the
maybe,
holy
yeah.
book. Yeah.
So
yeah.
it's all based on something that is true, right? That's true, and they all talk about the same, because there is really just one truth if you really think of it. We cannot talk about the truth because it's something that is not graspable. So we have our realities, and as soon as we start to describe it with words, it becomes subjective, right? Because that's the only way it works. But the way, so this is why we have so many descriptions of the same thing. But if you're experiencing it, if you really dig deep and you connect the dots, then you will find out we're all talking about the same thing in the end, right? The structure of body, soul, and spirit, for example, you find everywhere in different words, in different descriptions, but it will
Does
be
my
there
internet
somehow.
keep cutting out?
Does it? Oh, I'm sorry. I don't know. I didn't notice. Is it? Did you not hear me?
Is it just me?
Yeah.
It got stuck for a second. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, for a second. Yeah. Okay. But did you hear what I was saying, or you want me to repeat that? Okay. I think when we do the video recordings, you won't have the cutouts, because apparently, because I see you clearly. Some weird moments when you don't receive it. That's strange. But that's my point. So the truth is, in, if you will, capital letters, is always the same. It's just difficult to find. But once, when you're interested and you look at different cultures and different scriptures, and you get your information from different spiritual teachings, and then you all of a sudden, oh my gosh, there's a parallel. That's all actually quite similar, and I call that also synchronicity. That is when you really start to understand that this is all, this is a concept that is close to the truth, right? If you will, when you start to talk. So anyhow, that was interesting. Now let's go back to our teaching content. Today is all about death and what's the process of death, and what is after the death, and how do we work with it in our systemic coaching and family constellation facilitating. So we are first of all looking at death of the process of dying, as we did yesterday on looking at birth and the process of birth. We will dive into the concept of past life, as well as in reincarnation and family systems and how that is interlinked. We will also talk about reincarnation and karma. And we will talk about traditional belief systems, how they come into play here. Then we will look into the sole cause of a disease. And we will finally do a regression. So I will teach you the steps, how to go through regression, and then we will practice it by the end of today. Yeah? So let's start with death. The simple truth is there is no such thing as death. Life always lives on as an energy which is only changing the vibration but cannot go away. Energy cannot go away. It is somewhere and it's transforming. So death is practically, of course, the body decays, goes back to Earth because its home is Earth. It cannot go anywhere else. But if you look at death, then that is for everything else only a change from the physical to the non-physical reality. And then in reincarnation back to the physical, that would be a birth. And it's a never-ending, it's not never-ending, it's ending, but it is for a long time never-ending circle. And that's called the circle of life or the circle of karma. So life lives on. That's the point here. Life lives on. Life is not dying. Life cannot die. Life is like the water cannot leave the atmosphere. The water is always on Earth, always the same quantity. Every single water drop that has existed from the beginning of time is still here. And so is life. It cannot go anywhere. Life has been created at the beginning of life in however ways, who knows, but life is there and it doesn't go anywhere. So we are just circling in and out this life and in our circle of life or circle of karma. The process of death is the change from the physical reality into the non-physical reality, and also takes 9 months in a normal process of dying to prepare, meaning no sickness, no Alzheimer, no this, no that. A healthy person who comes to the end of the lifespan in this lifetime decides to leave, if you will, conscious or subconscious decision, and then 9 months it takes to prepare the soul and the body. The body prepares in a way that the heart starts to beat slower and gets weaker and weaker and weaker until the electromagnetic field is so weak that the soul goes out of, is drawn to its astral plane. And in the end, the heartbeat stops, and that's it. Nothing can hold the soul back and the spirit. So they go where they are at home. The electromagnetic, that I talked about that. So now, obviously, I'm not deaf, so I'm not reporting on my own experience, but I have this from reports from so-called near-death experiences. Are you familiar with that? That people have experienced dying and they came back? It's a phenomenon that actually happens quite often, and they are writing about it, or you can Google it, and they all have the same description of what has happened to them. So they all say they feel like they are dizzy and disorientated at the moment they start to die. After the 9 months, if it would be natural, most of them near-death experiences is in a sudden situation, an accident, or a severe disease that is suddenly starting to taking the body out. But most often they are reporting about an accident, and that's what they say. They all feel like, first of all, they all see their own body and the other people around. So they are kind of like floating above. That's what they see. So interestingly, there are ways to see without eyes. There are ways to feel without a body. There are ways to even smell a scent without the nose, right? So that's an interesting fact that people are reporting when they had near-death experiences. Then they say they go through a corridor, which actually reminds me very much of the birth channel, right? So that is exactly also reversed somehow. They see colors differently, and they kind of experience a change of perspective, whatever that means. They find everything is more vibrant, clear, and sharper in what they see without eyes, so how they perceive, what they leave, and where they are going. And then everybody is experiencing more or less the same journey, yeah, but they have different destinies because they go to different realms in the astral world, obviously, right? But the journey seems to be always the same. They also go, we can say realms or dimensions. That's semantics. There are so many words for the same thing, yeah. I like to say realms, others say dimensions. I don't think there's a difference in it. Maybe it is, but I haven't discovered it yet. Yeah. Only the ones that are sticking to the in-between world are not going through the corridor or this tunnel or this reverse birth channel, if you will. That has been reported as well. And that makes totally sense because this birth canal where the soul kind of, where the baby goes through and then the spirit comes in, if you reverse that, let the spirit out and the soul, the people who are in the in-between world are stuck there. They don't reach the astral world. They can't go there, right? They are literally stuck. They are still attracted, not by the heartbeat, by their desire, by their strong desire, their attachment or addiction. They are attracted or still holding on to the physical world, the earth. So they are here, they don't go to a corridor, and they can't go through a corridor unless we help them, like we did yesterday, unless we help them to go through a corridor and find their place in the astral world. So in the normal death process, the soul goes back to the astral plane and the color of the emotion it has become. Yeah. So when you look at our little animation from yesterday, the soul was green when it came, and the triangle shape symbolizing the soul was green, I think, or blue when it came, and became yellow when it left in the process of dying. So has changed the color, has changed the frequency, has learned a lesson on Earth and goes to another realm in the astral world, another place. The spirit leaves, of course, then once the soul is safe and sound home, then the spirit leaves the soul behind and goes back to the light, where it's the home of the spirit, obviously. We're doing an exercise now, which is from the yoga tradition. It is called Shavasana, corpse pose. So in the yoga tradition, you do your asana practice or your pranayama practice or whatever to connect with your true purpose or higher self or whatever you want to call it. You should also incorporate a resting pose where you do absolutely nothing. And that's called Shavasana or corpse pose. Now, when you do yoga, you have some physical exercise, if you will, and then you rest. But in the yoga tradition, Shavasana is actually corpse pose because you should experience as often as you can the process of death to prepare yourself for it and lose fear of it, right? And also to understand who you really are. So, and we will do that in a little exercise here. We will go in Shavasana corpse pose, and I will guide you in a guided meditation through this. So let's prepare for that. You can lie down in this exercise. You don't need to sit upright if you prefer that, or you just lean back, or you just relax as much as you can and still be able to hear me. Yeah? So take a very relaxed position. You don't need to do anything. It's a guided meditation. You can put your feet up or whatever is comfortable for you. And take a moment to make that work for you. And when you're ready, when you're prepared, you close your eyes. And you start to focus on your breath. You feel how your breath comes into your nostrils, filling up your upper body, the ribs, the abdominal, like a balloon almost that receives the air. And then you draw in your navel and you press out the air again. And you're very conscious about this movement in your body, breathing in and out. And while you focus on the movement of your breath, you drop thoughts, any expectations or worries of the day, and become calmer and more peaceful. Just stay focused on your breath in and out. And as more as you breathe, as calmer you get. You lose time and space. You're firmly grounded in here and now, in this realm where you're always at peace, because in this very moment, everything is good as it is. Nothing needs changes, needs to be done. Everything is in perfect order on your soul journey. Wherever you are right now, right here, is the perfect place for you. You have completely relaxed your arms, your legs, your head, your jaw. Just relax. Your neck, your shoulders, your spine. It's relaxing. Your inner organs are relaxing. Your skin, your brain is relaxed. You're completely relaxing. And now you put all your attention and awareness onto your right leg. From the toes to the hip, you feel your right leg. You feel the presence of your right leg without judgment. It's just there. With your attention, you bring it to your awareness. And now you visualize that your right leg is vanishing into thin air. And you see how it's just gone. And you ask yourself the question, am I still there? And you put all your attention on your left leg. You feel your left leg. You perceive it as part of your body. You feel it from the toes to the hip. You know it's there. You don't need to look at it. And now you are visualizing that your left leg is also dissolving into thin air. So it's gone. You don't feel anything. You just perceive it as being not there anymore. And you ask yourself the question, am I still there? Now all your attention goes to your right arm, from the fingertips to your shoulder. You don't need to see your right arm, you know it's there. And now you visualize that your right arm is also vanished in an instant. You ask yourself the question, am I still there? Now all your attention goes to your left arm. You feel your left arm from the fingertips to your shoulder. You know your left arm is there. And now you let go of your left arm and you let it go and vanish. Nothing left from your left arm. And you ask yourself the question, am I still there? All your attention goes to your upper body. You feel your upper body from the pubic bone all the way to the throat. You know it's there. And now you visualize how your upper body is vanishing in thin air. It's just gone. And you ask yourself the question, am I still there? Now all your awareness goes on the last remaining body part, your head. You feel the head. You feel the presence of the head. And now you let go of your head as well. And it's completely vanishing. Nothing's left from the body. And you ask yourself the question, am I still there? And you will have no problem to answer this question. You don't even need to think about it. It's that obvious. It's a knowingness that you have. And you take note what kind of emotions are maybe forming, if there is a little bit of fear or relief, whatever comes up, without being judgmental, without categorizing it as good or bad or concerning or freeing. Take note what you experience, what you feel, what you think. When you have inquired into this long enough, you are ready to come out of Shavasana corpse pose. You feel all the parts of your body. You feel the weight of your body on your chair or on your bed. And you come back into the present, into the room where you are in. And whenever you're ready, you will open your eye. Very good. You want to share how did you experience Shavasana? Who wants to have a go? Anybody? Yeah.
I, I was really surprised when you said that the limbs disappear and
Mhm.
that I could, that they could, I've never done anything like this. I really, really enjoyed it, and
Yeah.
does take you to a different place. So
Does
thank
it,
you.
eh? Wonderful. And how was the answer to your question? Am I still there?
Of course, yes.
So obvious, huh? Yeah. Wonderful. Yeah. And of course, you can repeat if you enjoy it. You can repeat this exercise for yourself all the time. It's very, very relaxing. It's good to fall asleep with, even if you have trouble to sleep. And it is a fantastic preparation of leaving the physical and transforming into the not physical realm without any kind of worries or fears or no. And Heba, how did you experience this Shavasana exercise?
It's interesting. I do a lot of meditation, so it was nice. It's relaxing and it felt light.
Mm. Was anybody a little bit surprised or fearful even to
No, no,
parts of the
it
body?
was
Not
just
really?
relaxed. No, no.
Good, great. And you, Navjoti, same? Or what happened for you?
Yeah, it was fine. It was okay.
Good. All right. So let's talk about the concept of past lives. So on the soul journey, all emotions in all shades and facades have to be experienced and owned. Because otherwise, transformation from a lower frequency of emotion to a higher frequency of emotion is not possible. Just by knowing the concept of it, nothing changes. This is a experience of a deep level that we have the body for and the senses, and that we're creating our life circumstances that we can fully understand in emotion and the impact of the emotion on us without overlooking something, without looking the other way, without camouflaging it, that we are really, really going into the emotion, whatever it is, without fear. And then we own it. We not kind of want to get over it. We really want to own it, or I love the word digest it. It's like food. You want to digest it too, and then it transforms in you to a higher frequency. Yeah. So this pushing away is obviously making it stay, but to fully embrace it, fully acknowledging it, and fully make it your own, and to digest it, if you would eat a meal that you then transform into your own body cells and tissues, right, from this meal. That's the same with emotion. So so if you can do that, you finally enter the world of light, enriched with the experiences, yeah, enriched, but not become one. Because we can only become an emotion if we haven't digested it. We become the emotion because we are living the emotion. Yeah. A digested emotion is transformed into life force, into love, actually. So that's the difference. another information about the concept of past life is it's not linear. So when we think about past lives, we're thinking, okay, the life before ours, let's say, I don't know, 100 years ago, and then the life, I had a life before that, that's probably 500 years ago. And, you know, we're thinking like this, but that's not true. And you will see that when you work with past lives, that is actually even the future is in there, because when you are entering the state of when you're entering the morphogenetic field or the Akashic records, however you call that, that will reveal the information of a so-called past life, that is outside of time and space. There is no such thing as here, a day, a year, or anything like this, right? So a past life can be easily be a future life. The good thing is we don't care. We, as in family constellation, we don't need to know where we are. And we really don't want to dwell too much on finding out in which century we find ourselves in, or the client, or is it a future or past life, because it doesn't matter. For the morphogenetic field, it doesn't matter. It's just another life experience that we had or will have that needs to be looked at and solved on an emotional level, because there's a trauma. There happened a trauma that is still stuck with us in our soul. We need this many life experience to work on our what we call karma, or another tradition. I'm sure there's another word for it. That means this action or the cause and effect, another natural law or universal law. Yeah, every action is causing an effect or a counter reaction, if you will. That's just how life is. And we are here to experience what our life choices, action, is, how they turned out, what kind of effect they have. That's exactly what we do here. So to give you the full concept of the past life, just to think about the unborn soul, that is the soul before she has adopted any emotion. Yeah. So even before guilt and shame, a soul that is just formed or in the process of being birthed without any home in the astral world, right? And don't ask me where they come from. I don't know. Yeah, what realm they come from. This soul is innocent. Of course, has not experienced anything, no emotion, but it's not only innocent, it's also ignorant, because it doesn't know anything. Yeah, nothing. There's no knowledge, no information, no emotion, absolutely nothing. Yeah. And that's how every unborn soul starts off with. But when a soul went through the karmic cycle, yeah, through all the lifetimes, and every life experience is different for every person. And when I say person, I mean the individualized soul, yeah, because every soul is on the same journey, but to different destinies, because perception is subjective. So not one soul can have the same life experiences over the course of all the past lives like another. That will always be different. So in the end, this soul will be not innocent anymore, but also not ignorant anymore. Yeah. It will have gone through all the emotions. It will have had a plenitude of actions and reactions, caused effects, yeah, and learned from it and become at least knowledgeable, if not wise. At the end of the soul journey, wisdom is achieved. And that's Malcolm Southwood teachings. We need, and that is due to the astrology. I'm not exactly sure how he comes to the figure, but he says 144 lifetimes are the absolute minimum for a soul to achieve that. But we repeating a lot of lifetimes in the same, emotion, not learning anything. So it is easily 1,000 lifetimes for each soul that they go through. And if you got stuck in the in-between world, yeah, then you have to come back anyhow without any learning experience. So that all adds up. And we all that we are here, just thinking about the baseline of the frequency of emotions that we have, because we are interested in spiritual development and healing on a deep level. So definitely have reached more than 200 on the scale, meaning we have already lived a lot of lifetime. That's for sure. We are not here for the first time. Nobody who is attracted to family constellation is here for the first time, right? Or not even for the 100th times. It has already lived a lot of lifetime. The soul has a certain genetic imprint from previous lifetimes on Earth. Everything leaves an imprint because it's emotionally, and it will impact the soul's journey. And that's exactly why every soul is on it, has different, well, you can say different journeys actually, although it looks similar, but it is always venturing from different experiences, from different actions that is causing counteractions and then causing emotions to another through lifetime and through lifetime. The soul needs a familiar environment for a smooth transition into a new body that with a like genetic material. We had that yesterday in our little animation. So that needs to be planned carefully, because the family they are reborn into needs to be genetically close, especially on the physical level, and also provide exactly that experience that let them develop or evolve. So that is all very, very fine-tuned and complex, the whole incarnation. So therefore, reincarnation to the same family system happens often until the soul has finished a certain stage of development and moves on to a completely new experience. Yeah. And that would mean to reincarnate in a new environment. And that also means to reincarnate in a new family system. So we are spending a lot of lifetimes in one family system, and then eventually we make a bold movement and decide to incarnate into a new family system. Saida, what was the question? Was that
Yeah,
the question?
thank you.
Yeah.
I'm curious about the alike genetic material and what you mean by that. Because like there's predictions that there's going to be lots of mixed ethnicity families.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, what do you mean by alike genetic material?
If you're a part, you know how you can track down if you do this ancestral search on the web or whatever, when you send your I think blood or something away for some testing of your genes, that they can find out how many
They
parts
do
of
like
this.
DNA testing, yeah, and they can figure out how many where your origin, how many like ethnicities it contains. Like you might find
Exactly.
something from Asia, and we might find some ancestor
Yeah,
in Europe or something. It's really
exactly.
weird, yeah.
It's very weird. So
You have like
genetic,
percentages from each one. You will have
yeah,
percentages from each, yeah, from each
yeah.
root.
So genes are information. They are information storage, and they will store the information from your family. For example, you can with the gene test find out who your father is, who your grandfather is, how you are related. All from gene testing. You can find out from which ethnicity you come from, the whole family comes from, right? And then you can find how close a relative is to you, and so it's a very complex. But because the genes are information only, that's where it's stored. So for the soul, it is important that when they had a body before, that now the next life experience is close to this family. So, to the father, grandfather, mother, grandmother, this specific ethnicities, right? So that's the creation of the soul experience. Once it can make a quantum leap and has experience everything they can in this family system, they would go to another, and that is when they feel like a misfit, basically. So when they are feeling not really fitting in, and also the parents think this child is not really, how is it even ours? But it has been definitely genetically born into this family, but it is not alike them. Yeah, that would be what I call the quantum gene. Every other who is very attached to the family, who feels very comfortable with the family, who always has, who is very family orientated and feels really at home with their family, chances are that they have reincarnated into the same family. That's what I want to say with it. And of course, yeah, that can all cross over with ethnicity. Yeah, that can all, because in your ancestral line, there are lots of ethnicities anyhow. So that's not an indicating for a family system that they come from one country or from one ethnic branch. Yeah, that's not the sign of a family system. Remember, also family system, orders of love, first order of love. They're not only blood related, but they are also related through action and through destiny. Yeah, they are all part of the family system because of the action or destiny. They don't need to be blood related at all, but they are forming this family system. And when we were talking about reincarnation and family system, we are reincarnating in our own family system. Sometimes we're not even blood related. Yeah, we could be the victim of 6 generations before who wasn't blood related as as a soul, and then decide to reincarnate into the system because somehow it's also genetically fitting. Yeah, which can be, it's pretty broad. I don't think it's too narrow. I mean, I don't know exactly how it works, obviously on a biochemical level, but on a spiritual level, that's what it meant when we say genetically similar or close. Yeah, that it has been somehow already formed in the body. Some similarities that is makes it easier to be even formed in the mother's womb, because if it's too foreign, like a mother cannot have a dog puppy because it's genetically so far away, right? So that's all that says, right? The important information here is that we decide to reincarnate in our family system for many, many reasons. And that is also a phenomenon that you see in a family constellation, because you not only see ancestors, but sometimes when you are really good observing, you find out that it's actually the same soul. So we are literally our own ancestors that we see in family constellation represented by others. That is very, very interesting. So you could easily, Saida, in this lifetime, on your soul journey, be the same soul like your great-grandfather. Yeah, it's possible. And in family constellation, you can see that. The next life is designed in astral world. And this is also why when we find familiar faces on Earth, we have a déjà vu or something, and we think, oh my, we must have met in the past life. It's very common that people say that. I suggest that that's very unlikely. More likely is that you have met in the astral world and that you have made out to come at the same time, so you can meet here and work on your karma, because that's what you do in the astral world. Yeah. You're with alike, remember, alike souls. It feels like home. They're all working on the same, and they want to incarnate together and meet so they can actually experience what they want to work on. They need a body for that. They need a relationship for that. They need another body to relate to. Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to experience it. The in-betweeners, they are going back to the same life situation, right? They have not the chance to go to the astral world. They have not the chance to ponder on their actions and their karma and their and the effects of their actions, and meet others with whom they can design a new life experience in the next life where they can actually work on it and get out of it. They don't have any of these. They don't have any help. They are basically in deep sleep normally in the in-between world, especially people who do suicides or a lot of other things that are due to a very strong emotion that is holding them close to the physical world. And then they have, of course, exceeded the minimum of 144 lifetimes, because this is needed. 144 lifetimes is needed to evolve from one emotion to the other. For one, so that's the point, right? And we're talking about facets of an emotion, right? Because I don't know whether there are 144 emotions, but there are definitely one emotion has probably 10 or 20 different aspects to it. And that all needs to be discovered and digested to move on. So when I say karma, this the Sanskrit word that I'm familiar with. It just means action, not punishment. Like in many religions, in the Christianity, is you have whatever hell and heaven and all this. This is all sin. Yeah, sin is the word here. Like you have sinned in one lifetime and now in the other you have to suffer for it. That's not how life is designed at all. It's completely unjudgmental and neutral. You only judge. There's nobody else judging you. That's your soul journey. There is nobody higher than that. You decide what you have done, ponder on it, and then want to change it, and then you come back. You are eager to come back to change it. Unfortunately, you forget about all of this. We don't know our past lives consciously. We don't know our astral lives consciously. We don't know any of these. But some have more and others less intuitions towards it. Some can actually travel to the astral world. Apparently, that has been reported. So there are possibilities to feel a little bit into our previous incarnations, but normally that's not regularly happening. If you had any of these experiences, please do share. I have never had one, but I would be very interested to hear firsthand from somebody who has it. So that is when I use the word karma. I'm sure you have other words. What would be the word in your tradition, Heba and Saida, for that? Is there any action and the law of cause and effect? Action causing reaction? Maybe not. So we just stay with this word here. Have you heard about
I think it's more or
yeah,
less like
Heba?
the Christianity. Yeah, I think in Islam it's more or less like Christianity. So if you do good, then you will be rewarded. If you do evil, then whatever you do will catch up with you sooner or later.
Yeah,
Then life
That's,
will happen. Like, yeah.
yeah, exactly. And if you take the judgment out of this, then it would be karma.
Mm-hmm.
So if there wouldn't be evil or good, if it would be just something that happens that causes, let's say, suffering, then you come back and you are suffering to experience it from the same perspective as your victim. So if you
Yeah.
have been a perpetrator in one lifetime, you will be the victim in the other lifetime. Yeah, you always need to experience emotions from multiple perspectives. Always. Yeah. So this is why you have so many lifetimes, because there are many possibilities to experience that. Have you heard about the term soulmates or twin flames? Yeah, familiar? In Germany, it's actually a bit different. So I had to learn that the English translation is not always accurate. So soulmates are in English. In German, it's used synonymously to twin flames, but in English I have learned is soulmate is just somebody you feel comfortable with, and that would be from astral world. Because you have friends there, now you're friends on Earth, and you feel really close. You feel understood. Twin flames is that something different, and that is a concept that takes us to the end of reincarnation or to the beginning of it, whatever you want, because time and space is not present in this, right? Twin flames are the concept that is soul. Soul is before it individualized. It is a kind of female and male together. It's one soul. It has no gender. And then on the journey to through density, all the way, then the densest of all realms would be Earth. It splits somewhere, and then it becomes male and female, the soul, like energetically, right? Not with the body, the energy, because everything is differently experienced from male or female perspective, right? As you know, men and women experience the same emotion differently. And that's exactly what the soul wants. It wants to experience every emotion, every action from the many, many, many angles. And that's the same. And therefore, it wants to divide it to male and female at one stage, whenever, before the soul is going through the reincarnation. So the innocent soul it is, right? The innocent and ignorant soul split. Now, when both souls been through their 144 or more lifetimes and are both ready, because they have digested everything they have experienced, both ready to move on, they combine again. And if you happen to meet your counterpart on Earth, that's called a twin flame, which is very rare, by the way, as far as I know. Yeah. So it's not the romantic relationship. That would be a soulmate from astral or something like this. It is something, it could be a relative, it could be mother, father, it could be an older man and a younger, or a kid. And so it has nothing to do with relationship, right? It's just something that you have this insight, that you are aware of it. And apparently, that's the teaching of Malcolm Southwood. And I actually had an experience like this, I have to say. So I know that from my own experience. When you happen to have even a brief encounter with what you know, and that's a knowingness, I cannot explain how you know it, but you know it, yeah, that this is your twin flame, that is actually a sign that you are preparing to come together on other realms again, so that you have been through a lot of lifetimes, both of you, right? So you're starting to prepare to find your other part, if you will, in another realm after, I don't know, more lifetimes. So that is then how the twin flame is explained, how that works. Then we have a soul family, and that's what I talked before. That's the astral realm where you come from. That's you feel emotionally closest, and you incarnate, of course, with some soul people, and that become close family members, close friends, or close teacher-student relationship, whatever, a close relationship where you feel good about it. And then we have the spiritual family, with this where your spirit lives in the world of light. That's also familiar to you, but that is very far away from the physical body, so it's very unlikely that you would meet your spiritual family on Earth. However, as closer you are to the highest vibration, as lesser you would meet your soul family, and as more you would meet your spiritual family as a lifetime on Earth, right? Because you have already worked through all the emotions. If you think of the scale of Dr. Hawkins, you have already worked through it. So you are up there for 500, 600 top. So the soul has not a strong impact on your physical existence anymore, more the spirit. And that is when you meet your family more frequently. I think we talked about familiar faces on Earth that you meet are from astral, from your soul family. The misfit is the one that doesn't want to reincarnate into a same family system anymore, takes a complete different one. It's like a blank slate and starts. Has anybody feels of you like a bit of a misfit in their family? Did that ever occur to you? Yes, me too. No, Jyoti. Doesn't it's just a whatever, a milestone in your karmic cycle, right? It happens this lifetime or next or whenever, so whenever it's ready, and you will feel that. You will feel that it goes so far that my mother said to me one day, "I can't believe I have born you." So like so different and so absolutely not fitting in, right? So um, now we talk about traditional belief systems. Of course, there are so many belief systems, and they all have also their concept about past life, which is all fine. I'm just saying when we work and we work with past lives, when we are systemic coaching, I like to adopt this structure that I just gave you. It has helped me to understand what I see and to work with clients a lot. Yeah. So for me, that was the best model I could find and that I could use in this work. And the most clearest, and it is aligned with what I see in family constellations or in systemic coaching. Of course, all these concepts come from different transmitted scriptures. But if you go to the original version of the scripture, then you will find that it's all quite close, differently maybe depicted, but in the essence, it's quite close. The teaching, everyone has the same there, yeah. Religions are, of course, belief systems by definition. Otherwise, it wouldn't be a religion. It would be a what would it be? It would be a fact. If you wouldn't believe in it, if it would be experienced, then that's another completely different different entity. But if you are in this realm of uh, uh, not experiencing, but listen to what others say and then go with that, then that's what we call a belief system. Yeah, something that cannot be experienced. Like I know Christianity, of course, the best. I was growing up Catholic, and we need to believe in, for example, this punishment thing. Yeah, that was something we had to believe in, and I never felt, punishment. My life was always quite happy. Yeah, and I wasn't probably the nicest child, so I think like that's so weird. That to me that made no sense, right? So that is when I felt the first time that it is a belief system and that you can actually, if you wanted to, you don't have to, but if you wanted to, you can disprove it with your own life, right? With your own experiences, if you wanted to. Hmm? So that's what I wanted to say to that. The truth, however, as opposed to the belief system, the truth can only be directed experience. The truth can only be something that everyone can directly experience, right? How else? It is never changing. Otherwise, it would be a belief system or a reality. But the truth must be the same. So that is really important and interesting if you ponder on it, and if you like to ponder on this kind of philosophy about the spiritual journey, to find out what is the truth, right? What is it actually? It's a very interesting journey. There are lots of spiritual, not religious, but spiritual teachings like the Course in Miracles, for example, or what comes to mind? There are so many. I'm quite, but there's this one that is pointing to the right direction. So that's all pointers that are ways. And of course, when you have when you study yoga, the old Vedas, it's also always pointing to the truth and not to adopt another belief. They always say, okay, do that, and then you can experience it. And if you have experienced it, you can decide if you, it makes, if you can decide if you want to adopt it or not. That was kind of the difference. Let's come back to reincarnation in a nutshell, because we want to work with the regression soon. When we come to the end of life, we are expected to let go of all it once held, unless we intend to return. And repeat the experience. That would be the caught in the in-between world. That's a quote from Malcolm South. When we come to the end of life, we are expected to let go of all it once held. No attachments, no addictions. Yeah? If we have attachment or addiction, we will return and repeat the experience. So that is, remember when we talked about, it is a good advice to work on that what lasts, as opposed to work on your appearance or something like that, which probably lasts 80 years at the best, yeah, or 90. That is something to really worth working on, to let go of attachments and any kind of addictions when it comes to the end of life. Now, before we practice regression, basically, let's talk about, that's not related to this, I just needed to put it in somewhere, so now here it is, the sole cause for fatal or severe diseases, right? So we know, of course, the physical ailment that one is suffering under has somewhere its foundation in the spiritual, not in the emotional body. And that's also what we see in family constellations, of course, because there's where we see the soul movement. So when you see severe illnesses in children, in young children, they are most likely caused in the family system and or in a past life. So therefore, we don't do regression, we do a family constellation. Yeah, we can always safely, when we hear of a child with a severe illness, do a family constellation. We will find the soul cause of it. When somebody has a kidney, a fatal or severe kidney disease or problem, they are trapped. They feel they are trapped. And they are trapped as a soul, right? They are trapped on their soul journey, not in a life situation necessarily that that comes and goes within days, can be changed. Just that soul is literally trapped. Bladder in women is a sign of loss of control, and in the breast, always mother issue. Often interrupted movement towards the mother. In several generations often. And of course, we all know that breast cancer is, for example, very common now. And we also have a lot of interrupted movement towards the mother through, through culture that has changed from a more natural to a more not so family orientated culture. The good news is, with the tools that you are learning, it is all preventable and it can be healed. And I like to quote Sophie Hellinger. She said in one of the constellation workshops, after interrupted movement towards the mother has been performed successfully, as it always is, she said, here you can see it is never too late for a fulfilled childhood. It is never too late. Everybody can do it. So everybody can also heal their soul. And this is what we do with our clients. We help them to heal their souls. So it doesn't come to a manifestation of all these fatal or severe diseases. Lungs are unshed tears or unlived grief. That's what a lung issue is standing for. And these unshed tears or unlived grief, very well in entanglement with an ancestor, right? Don't forget that. It's not about the person. It's about the family system. The digestive tract is standing for problems in relationships, and again, can be all come back from far, far away, most likely. Occasionally, it is probably created in this lifetime for the first time, but more likely it comes from past life in the same family system. Leukemia is overwhelmed with responsibilities. Do you by any chance know somebody with leukemia, especially when it is in adulthood, not in children? Because I had a case years ago, and I was really blown away. That was exactly the problem of this woman. Yeah. When she turned 50, she had so many responsibilities as an entrepreneur, with her children, with being divorced, with it was absolutely building a house. It was absolutely everything over her head, and she suddenly was in the hospital with leukemia. Now, it was really, from this perspective, really interesting to observe. The pancreas is problem making decisions, because there are two energetic lifelines that are crossing over in the pancreas. And when one cannot make, important decisions, of course, not just what for dinner, more a decision like, do I leave my wife, and go with my affair or whatnot, yeah, or and I love both, and they both love me, and I have to leave one behind. These kind of decisions, they can cause pancreas. Do you say pancreas or pancreas?
Pancreas, yeah.
Pancreas.
This is weird because I know I got a friend who was also like in the same situation you're describing. He wanted to leave his wife for another woman because life was not working with his wife anymore, but there were children, and he was like in between, should I leave her or not, or should I leave the woman I love? And he ended up having diabetes.
Okay.
Although he's like 35, he's very young and fit. He's not like overweight or anything. He's fit and young.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it really works. It's a system. It's kind of, that's what it is. So. Brain issues are a spiritual conflict. There are two sides in the same person at war with each other. That can also hint on a war situation in a past life, or in the family, and in the family system. So that goes from migraine all the way to brain tumors, right? It's just the severity is less. So when you are encountering headaches, and you're not dehydrated, so when that is a given, because that's normally, I think, 90% or 95% of the reasons for headaches is dehydration. But if it's not the case, if you have enough, you're hydrated enough, and you still have these headaches, then go in a meditation and find out what you are at war with. There is something that you are at war with within yourself, or within the family system, of course, right? Would always be a representative for your family system. Throat is the incapability.
What would be an example of a spiritual conflict? Like what?
Okay, so a spiritual conflict. Let's say you are drawn to retrieve and spend time with yourself, to inquire into yourself, yeah, in meditation, or in what kind of practices, to find the truth. We are really drawn to your spiritual purpose. But you have 3 children, husband left, you have to work for them, 3 jobs, rush around, that is a spiritual conflict. Yeah. And that can cause headaches up to brain tumor if you're not careful. Yeah. If you do not make a decision. And just while we're talking about this, that doesn't mean that you have to. So we think then automatically we have to decide either or. We have to leave our children and go in the cave, yeah, or we have to stick with our children and be unhappy and feeling spiritually unfulfilled all our lives. This is the black and white depicting of the mind, but that's not true. The spiritual conflict is with yourself. The spiritual conflict is that you think you have to decide and leave somebody behind. Either you have to put yourself down or your children. That's the conflict. That is not true. You can do both, because that is a challenge you have born yourself into. You have to accept it, acknowledging what is. That's the start. There is no war anywhere going on, neither in the physical nor in the spiritual world, if everybody would just acknowledge what is and not point the finger towards somebody else. Right? You have to change, or something has to change, so I'm happy. That is exactly the beginning of the war and not the solution. So the solution here is to relax into the situation and lovingly taking care of the children as long as they needed to, and find a way to have a spiritual practice that fits within this lifestyle. Yeah, that's the solution. There's not this war. Oh, I should go there. I should get there. I should this, and that is this tug of war. I think that's the English term, right? Tug of war. That's already giving everything away. Throat is the incapability to answer, to set the foot down, feeling powerless, right? This is when you have throat diseases. That's the soul core. The prostate is for men loss in power. And of course, many prostate problems are in older men, especially when they retire, because that's how they identify normally with their job. And that's where they gain their power. And then they lose it. So that's the struggle for many men, in many cultures, I suppose. I certainly know that from the Western world, from Germany especially, that that's the case there, because they are very identified. The men in Germany are very identified with their role as a bread giver and their career. Like in New Zealand, for example, they have just a job. They don't care. They make money when they need money, and when they have a little bit of money for a few months ahead, they just quit their job. And then they live out of their money, and then they need money again, and then they go and get another job, and they don't care, right? They don't care. I mean, not everybody, but most. Then Germany is completely different. You have a career, you study, or you have an apprenticeship, and then it's a ladder, and then you step on this ladder, and you never leave this ladder. There's only this one ladder, and then you have to climb up, right? And you work your whole life for it, and your family needs to come with, and all of this. And that's what the Germans do. They would never just don't work because they don't need money for a few months and then just pick up a job, right? So in Germany, it's very common then, of course, that the man is so identified with their career and their position. They have like fought for 40 years, 50 maybe even, that when they then retire, they are really lost. Really lost. And then they, of course, fall ill often, either Alzheimer's or they have prostate cancer. I'm exaggerating, but that is the difference between the cultures here in New Zealand and back in Germany. It's very, very obvious. Not saying that here is no prostate cancer. Yeah, I'm not saying that, but there's also other reasons for that. Yes, Aida.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens in women in the next, I don't know, 50 to 100 years, because women are adopting that in the West now,
Oh, I hope not, but yeah, maybe.
Have a career and, making sacrifices and taking their, and it's just everything you described for the men in Germany. I think that's happening with women.
That's very, the women want to be better men now, right? Yeah. But it is like one extreme is causing the other. That's like we always have this pendulum from one extreme, then the other, and then eventually it should pendle in the middle, eventually, right? So we had all this dominance, male dominance. Now the female dominance wants to dominate, and then eventually there will be balance. Don't know when, but I'm absolutely certain it will. So liver and bile is unreleased anger. That's probably not a surprise, yeah, that this is seated there. And now we know when we worked with all these emotions in this module, anger is camouflaging often guilt and shame. So it needs to go deeper and deeper and deeper and find the trauma in the childhood or in the family system that has actually caused that anger. Just to say, okay, we are now meditating every night and release the anger, that's not helping. That's not looking at the cause of the anger, and therefore it wouldn't help with the liver and bile issues at all. Bone and skin are self-destruction and low self-esteem. That's where to look at when you have a client with a bone or a skin disease. Especially, of course, when it's fatal or severe. Okay,
So
well, that's
bone problem would be different from joint, or joints also will be included in bone problems?
That's a very good question. I don't think I can answer that. I would say no. I mean, I can answer that. I make a good guess because the bone is giving structure to the body, and the joints is giving flexibility to the body. So it has a completely different function. So if we look at this chart again, let's find out. Bone, structure, skin, environment, right? Skin is the barrier from the body to the environment. I'm not sure if joints would fit in there because the flexibility of a joint seems to hint in another direction. Now, it would be interesting. I would love to make a family constellation with a severe joint. What would that be, a severe joint disease?
Like the normal things like osteoarthritis, joint pains. Some people, their joints really get screwed that they need to have a joint replacement.
What comes to mind when I hear about that is what is a rheumatoid arthritis is that a joint who needs to be flexible becomes a bone.
Yes.
That's what happens, right? So that's a really interesting fact that it becomes a bone, yeah? And that will be then probably related to self-destruction and low self-esteem, yeah? Because you take the flexibility out and now it is as hard as bone.
Yeah, and it's interesting because rheumatoid arthritis starts in a young age. So osteoarthritis maybe is not a really good example because usually it happens in older age with wear and tear. But rheumatoid arthritis happens usually in 30s and 40s.
Yeah, some children have it, right?
I haven't seen children, but usually it's more common in women and usually starts in the 30s or 40s.
That's yeah, I can see how that is related to low self-esteem. Yeah. Very good. Great discussions. Very interesting. I'm learning a lot today. So let's go in the break. It's spot on, past. I see you in 10. Right. Let's go through the regression process. Now that we have understood the concept of life and death, of past lives, reincarnation, karmic cycle, the realms where the souls dwell, we can now understand what we see when we do a regression. If we wouldn't have any concept, we wouldn't know where we end up with the client, right? So this concept is like, what can I say? these concepts that I have introduced you to are like the ladder you can climb on, or the scaffolding you can use to navigate and safely navigate through experiences you will have with your clients or with your friends and family when you are starting to do this. So you can put what you experience through the feedback of your client, your friend and family, you can put that into context. And then when you can put that into context, you can guide them towards healing. Yeah. That's why we talk about that. So regression is always the same process. I talk you through, and then we will make an exercise so you can actually practice it. First of all, what is a regression and what is the definition? We talk about that. Then why does the client need a regression? What are the cases? So, okay. I don't have another slide there. Okay. So a regression is the guided meditation, if you will. You're not actually guiding the meditation. It is going with your client, or you guiding your client to overcome the boundaries of the subconscious mind and open it up to release a memory it has stored and didn't want to give up before. Remember, avoiding pain. So the subconscious mind doesn't want to give up this memory, but in a regression, we are working with the subconscious mind to open up, to give us the information we need so we know where to apply healing. That's a regression. Yeah. And that takes us either to early childhood traumas or to so-called past lives. Why we don't need to know what past it is, but it is one of other lifetimes. The client needs a regression to release memories either from this or a past life. We also use regressions to get rid of possessive energies or attached spirits. And you can combine that with a family constellation. We do a regression to find the sole cause of a specific disease, either in this lifetime or in a past lifetime. And when does a client need a regression? Well, definitely in trauma in childhood. That's the best way to release trauma in childhood. I have not yet seen a family constellation that can help so much as a regression does in a childhood trauma. Past life traumas can be released here. Maybe even with the family constellation, maybe that's optional. I think regression goes a little bit more precisely to the point in the past life trauma. Whenever your client is under the influence of foreign energies, meaning attached energies or attached spirits, that's definitely good in regression. But remember the example I gave you from my workshop, you can use the tools of family constellation with the representation to perform this detaching of a spirit, which we would actually call a lost soul. So a trapped soul. A trapped soul is my new terminology. Do not confuse anybody. So when we want to release trapped souls, then we use the means of a regression for that too. And we will learn how to do it in 9 steps, which will be the next slide. So first of all, the client needs to be guided into alpha state. Alpha state is not hypnotic. It is a relaxed state. It is a state you found yourself in when I guide you, for example, to Shavasana exercise. That is the state you are in. So you remember who you are completely in control, but you are so relaxed that your subconscious mind is putting down the guards. In this state, in the alpha state, your subconscious mind is highly guidable. Yeah, so you can guide it better. If it wouldn't be for the alpha state, the subconscious mind wouldn't reveal any of the hidden information that you need to heal a trauma. Then you guide your client back to the source of the problem. And as you will see in our demonstration, we keep it vague because we don't know what it is, the source of the problem. So when the client talks about, let's say they have a severe pancreas disease, and they want to go to the source of it, we are not guiding the client back to the pancreas disease. We say problem or issue in a broader term. So the subconscious mind is not tempted to stick to its delusion or to its disguise. Yeah, so it's more willing to cooperate. It's very important that we are not nailing it down too narrow. We affirm when we do the regression that the client is free of fear, guilt, or shame. And we also put it positively that they are completely safe. That's important. No, that's really important, because otherwise the subconscious mind would not cooperate. If it would be in this, would think that guilt and shame is still present and avoid the pain that it comes with. Yeah. So we must affirm that this is not present. Yeah. We have to repeat the step 1 to 3 in case of false memories. Just remember that we will talk about false memories and what that is. Once we have overcome false memories, we are at step 5, where we find the actual situation that was the cause of the problem. Yeah. And now we start to ask very precise and concrete questions about the circumstances. They need to be so precise that the client is actually able to visualize the whole scene in front of their closed eyes. And they can only do that when you point their awareness on details. Details are very, very important at step 5. And you will see that when I do that and when I demonstrate that with you, every detail about the surroundings, about is it hot and cold? Can you see your feet? Can you see your toes? You can't be precise enough. That is ensuring that the client can actually visualize the situation and gives you feedback, what they see, and there you can draw your conclusions out, what to do. Yeah. And then the final question is then, after you have established the situation, yeah, not too early, after the situation is established, meaning where is the client, what is he doing, how old is the client, what life circumstances is he in, maybe even what century, not that it's important, but as far as details go, it might be. If this is all established, then the question is, who is with you? Obviously, the trauma doesn't happen when he's on his own, right? A trauma is an impact in his life that has caused pain, emotional and or physical pain. So somebody must be there to cause it and to cause this feeling of guilt and shame. Yeah. So we need to find this somebody, but not too early, because remember, the subconscious mind is very fragile, and when the guards are up is the only way to find this situation. So if we are jumping too far ahead, then probably the subconscious mind is retracting the cooperation and put the guards up again. So be very careful before you ask the question, who is with you? So find the traumatic scene and what has been said. So who is with you is a hint of the traumatic scene. It might not be the one. It might be after or before. So then you need to go to exactly that scene that has caused the trauma in the client. That is the scene you need. And then when you're exactly at that scene, then you have to ask not only who's with you, then also what are they saying? Because chances are that this is causing the guilt or shame, what they said. And they can hear it. The client can actually report it to you. It is fascinating. Yeah. Then step 7 is now the healing starts. Now you suggest to the client to say in this scene the positive, the taking over the power again. Remember, trauma is taking the power away and causing pain. So now we are suggesting that the client, whatever scene they're in, they have the power to prevent this pain. Yeah. That's the positive data, the positive information is overwriting the negative one. That's how we heal a trauma. So when it is an adult trauma in a past life, then the client can say, now in this scene, I have nothing to do with it. It's not my fault. There's no reason why I should feel guilty or ashamed. Yeah, I'm free to walk away. I'm innocent. I leave it with you. They all can say that. However, when it's a child, they can't say that, because the child in an early childhood trauma, the child is definitely trapped there. Yeah. So then the adult client needs to come in, the one you're working with, into the scene with the child. The child is representing the soul child of the client who is stuck in this trauma. And the client needs to come in and say that to the perpetrator, the adult one. That's important. So either childhood trauma, then the client is the adult, or an adult trauma, like a war situation, for example, in the First World War or something, a soldier. Then the soldier your client sees in the regression is guided to say that. Like in a family constellation, when you suggest words to the representative, it's pretty much the same. In a regression, when we go there, the people the client sees, they are like representatives of the people who have acted out at that time. And you let them talk, and then the healing movement is enabled. Here, if you have a case of abuse or horror, especially sexual abuse on children, that is the most horrific scene that you see, yeah, mainly, other than torture. In this case, you take the client, not you, the client who is doing the regression takes the soul child or the one he sees in his regression out of the situation, because it's so traumatic, it's so painful, that they won't be able to see exactly what's going on. And for the subconscious mind and for the healing process to bring it into consciousness, it's important that you know that the client sees the situation. That's very important. So they can't do that in this case of abuse or horror. So therefore, you allow the client to, like the clients they see in the regression themselves, the soul, out of the situation, let them float under the ceiling or whatever you want to visualize in the sky if it's not a room, yeah, and looking down on the body and affirm that the emotional body is left behind so they don't feel pain and shame and guilt. Yeah. So they can actually see it. They cannot see it if they are in this state of panic, yeah, that they are trapped in. So it's kind of spirit is detaching, higher self is looking down and reporting back what they see. And that works fantastic. Before, the client can see nothing because it's also shocking. And once you detach their higher self from the scene, they can say exactly what's going on. So then you observe with the client what's going on by what he says. And then in this case, because there's always there's always an act of violence that is causing the trauma, obviously. Yeah. You ask the client as the adult, if it's a child, or the adult that's in the scene, to push the perpetrator away and take over responsibility. Yeah. And then say, no, you can't do that. That's against spiritual law. You can't touch me. Lots of words that you can use in this situation. And then taking the child, which is the emotional body, if it's a child in the scene, the soul child, out of the situation, yeah, and combine the client, the adult, and the child by taking them both out in your visualization into a safe space. That's then step 8. If that was a case of abuse or horror, you need to put another step in, which we call spiritual healing, which I will talk you through as well. And then number 9 is to close the session. Meaning you guide your client out of the alpha state, back into the room they are sitting, making sure they are relaxed, that they feel their body, that they are fully back from wherever they have been. So that's the 9 steps of a regression. So just some details about it. So that's a regression for everything, detaching spirits or whatever you need, just with different, you just go different routes. But you always go in alpha state. You always let your client visualize what they see and report it back to you. And then you just have to decide whatever you see, whatever the client shares, what he's seeing is what you do. You know that you are possessive energy, you are putting into a shape and a color, the attached spirit you talk to, that they can't stay and that they need to go home. And then they also have a color. So that's that. With the childhood regression, you, like we just said, the adult takes the child out there and protects it literally in the situation and in the from there on. And in a past life regression that leads to a adult trauma, then the adult is suggested in the trauma to take over power over the situation, to prevent any harm, and able to put the foot down, if you will, and protect himself against the perpetrator. So that's just the ways it goes, but it all goes over alpha state to suggest, let them see the scene and then see what you have in front, because you don't know that normally when you start, right? When you start, you don't know that. Sometimes you do, but sometimes you don't know. You just do a regression and see where it leads you. You don't know. Could be anything. So you need to prepare for everything. So let's talk about childhood regression. Alpha state, as always. Guided meditation to a safe space. This is how we do the alpha, achieve alpha state of relaxation. Then you would ask your client to see yourself as a child. Because you know it's childhood regression, you can do that. You are not surprised. You say, and then the first question is, how old are you? That's, you need to know how old the child is. Sometimes I say, oh, 14, 15, and you know it's not the trauma. It's far too old for the trauma. So you need to guide them further back in time when they were younger, before 7, before 5 years old. If the client cannot give an answer, they know they are a child, but they cannot give an answer how old they are, then just let them visualize at 5 years old, because with 5 years you cover pretty much everything from conception to the age where the children are not so susceptible anymore, right? So let's just say to the client, okay, then see yourself, picture yourself as 5 years old. What are you wearing, for example, then? And you continue as above with the regression, yeah? Maybe apply spiritual healing, because if it was child abuse, a horrific scene for the child, then you need to make sure, which we talk about that in a bit, to perform spiritual healing, and then you close the session. Same. guide out of the meditation back into the present room. That's the closing, right? Also in this case of childhood regression. Okay. Let's talk about the spiritual healing in a regression. Yeah. In this situation where the trauma has where the trauma has been caused or created that is so horrific for the child, like sexual abuse or torture or something really horrible that has been done to the child, the adult client takes his soul child out of the situation into a safe space, which is depicted as a heaven or as a cloud. I like clouds. I like to sit them on a cloud. That's the first step of spiritual healing. Then you let your client imagine a light shower, washes all dirt away from the child and from themselves, because there are two sitting, the adult and the child, right, on this cloud. So you let them visualize that they are both under a shower of light, and that is washing all the filth away. The filth is the guilt and shame that has been created and the pain that has been created through the trauma. And they always see that. They see black, dark, gray, brown stuff coming from the bodies and from inside as well. So you let them visualize that for themselves and the child, and let them see how this all becomes a stream, and how the stream flows away into, let's say, an ocean where it's completely dissolving. It's like with this, with the emotional healing, where they see the color completely dissolving. It's the same here. It's always important that the client sees how everything that needs to go is physically going away. It's not there anymore. That's the same here. Yeah. And then you let the client fill all the gaps and spaces that are left because of the gooey stuff that came out in this visualization, fill with light, but not the same light as the shower. This time, this light needs to come from within, just to make sure that you know the source of the light. Because if it's the shower coming from somewhere, that should not fill in any holes in the body. You don't want to attract any new whatever, yeah, entities to invade a very open energy field, right? So you make sure the light is coming from within and emanating from the heart. And this light is filling now in all the space that is left after this shower, where all the goo was washing away. Then the next step is to dress the child and also the client in new clean clothes. They are most likely white. Normally the client is always depicting white. And then take your time and visualize how they, put flowers in the hair is combed, flowers in the hair, and so they really look pretty and clean, and they feel completely new somehow, yeah. And then maybe that's not a must, but sometimes it is good to ask the child if they want a gift, the soul child. That's a teddy bear or whatever can it be. Maybe later on you advise your client to actually buy this item and put it up somewhere in the house for a while, not forever, for a while, to stay connected with the inner child, to support the healing process. Then you would ask the client to take the child into their heart so they can melt. This melting process is very important, because otherwise you can't make sure that it's not left behind again. So the traumatized child, the soul, is literally stuck in this trauma. Also when it is or especially when it is a past life, childhood or past life. So it is stuck there, and we need to make sure that it comes with the client into the now. And that can only be for sure when they are melting, when they are fusioning. Then you can make sure that he's or she is not leaving their traumatized soul child behind. And then also the client, the adult client, will affirm to the child From now on, nothing can harm you. I will protect you at all times. That's also important to feel, to make the subconscious mind feel safe, that there will be no pain created that is related to the situation you just have been. So it is solved for the subconscious mind and released. And then you have the closing. That is the same. That's the same closing as we would have in the regression. So these are extra steps. You perform the regression, and if there is this abuse, childhood abuse, these are extra steps to take. So it's this pushing away, making sure, taking over the power against the perpetrator, making sure whatever act was performed before is now not performed in this regression, overwriting the hurtful information with the healing information, powerful information, and then come out of the meditation. However, when the child is abused or in horror, in the horror scene, then you need to perform these extra steps of healing before they come back. So the last step. Let's talk a little bit about the alpha state that we work with. That's the way to work with the subconscious mind and not the subconscious mind against you. It is between 20 and 34 hertz. That's how these brain waves are measured. It is more importantly to us to know it's above sleep and below hypnosis. So they don't fall asleep and they shouldn't fall asleep. Then you cannot work with them when they are actually falling asleep. And we are also not hypnotizing anybody. Yeah, clearly not hypnotized. Yeah, you stay in the present tense in alpha state. That's important. You always ask, who is with you? What do you see? What do you feel? Is it cold? Is it warm? You not say, was it cold? Where have you been? Where did you go? That would bring the subconscious mind to alert. Yeah, because time is important for the subconscious mind. You have to take that out. It needs to be, like in a family constellation, exactly at that point where the trauma started. They need to be there. Otherwise, you can't overwrite the information with a new one. Always present tense. Now, there's a trick that, or trick not, but a trap maybe even. What is if the client repeats what you suggest, but in past tense? For example, you said to the client, who is with you? And the client said, oh, you asked the client, where are you? And the client says, oh, there's this house and blah, 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 blah. And then and then you ask, do you know this house? And then the client says, yes, that was the house I was born into. Yeah. So they are out of alpha state. Yeah? They cannot describe the house. They have a memory of the house, time. Okay. And we need to make sure then to go back and bring them back to alpha state in order to work with them. There is a bit of a workaround there. If you are more experienced, you will do that. You can continue. You stay, of course, in present tense, yeah. But you can continue and see if they find the way back to alpha state while you work. But if you're unsure and at the beginning you definitely start again from the beginning. And because you start with practicing with friends and family and you don't need to deliver perfect results, you just tell them, you know what, I think we do that next time again. I don't think we really nailed it today. Yeah? Stay positive in your words, positive, but there are some words I have no positive for. You have sometimes to say that you have no fear. You might say fearless, you are fearless. Yeah. Try that. I think that having no fear is stronger in this case, but normally we stay in with positive words. Yeah. You don't feel guilt, you don't feel shame, you don't feel fear. It's important. You can say fearless, but shameless and guiltless, I don't know if that works. I never tried. the impact of it. I always had the feeling that it doesn't hurt to say no fear. But other than that, stay positive. It's always find always a positive description of whatever you want to suggest. That was a childhood regression. Past life regressions are exactly the same. So, first of all, past life regressions are only for adults. You would not work with a child in the past life regression. Yeah, I would never work with child anyhow. My clients have to be 18 years old. If a parent comes with a smaller child and wants me to work with a smaller child, I would work with the parent. I wouldn't work with the child. I do not recommend that at all. Especially not with teenagers. Teenagers, you cannot work with them like this. I mean, they are so ups and downs with their hormones. It's really hard to work with. I actually tried one because my friend had really begged me to work with a 15-year-old daughter. So I can tell from my and all my spiritual teachers, Bert Hellinger and Malcolm Stassel and whoever, they work with adults or they work with the parents. So I gave in. I tried to work with her daughter. It was a catastrophe, and I barely say that. It does not work at all. So just don't do that. Work with adults. It's also safer, in the relationship with your clients. If they are responsible for their own actions, they can sign, waivers and all of this. So I think it's important. The intention of a past life regression is to access a past life, or let's say a parallel life, because it doesn't necessarily need to be past, parallel life that is causing the problem. That's the intention. But of course, neither you nor the client knows which one that would be. So that needs to be open. You are not guiding to a childhood. You're just guiding back in time to the source of the problem. Very open, very, very open. Here, the information will come. So then you ask your client, of course, the eyes are closed. They need to be in alpha state. If they are dressed, if they can see what they are wearing, if they can see shoes on their feet, if they wear socks or barefoot, and how big the feet are, small or big, or so to find out what are they seeing. Yeah, and the more precise your questions are and more to the detail, as easier it is for the client to A, stay in alpha, B, to let the subconscious mind to work with you, and C, to you to give a picture about the scene that is accurate, that you can work with. So the details are important here. And you just see what they see. So you really need a 3D vision when you hear somebody describing something, that you see it in front of you in your eyes. And you can practice that, of course. Yeah. That's very easy. You can listen to something, you can close your eyes, you listen to a podcast, you listen to a book, you listen to whatever, you close your eyes and you train yourself to see what they are talking about. You see the persons, you feel the environment, that you can train yourself to really be able to see it. And then that is the best prerequisite to help your client to solve this trauma or this whatever issue they have. You also ask in slow pace, and your voice is also low pitch, not high pitch. Slow pace, low pitch, and even not very loud. So you don't need to whisper. So your client always says, "Hey, what did you say? That's not good." But you are just speaking just to a tone that your client can just understand, because then all his senses are open and alert, and that is also helping the subconscious mind to work with you, right? So that was that. False memories are now what we look at. That is probably the most important part of a regression in a past life, sometimes also into childhood, that will divert you from, or where the subconscious mind of your client is not willing to let go of the guards. Yeah. And when the subconscious mind is not willing to let go of the guards, it would give you, through the client, a picture that looks like a past life or a childhood, and it's not. It's completely fake. And that happens more often than you think. So you need to be aware, and I know that people who are trained to do regression fall into this trap. They follow a false memory and they think they did a great job with the regression. Yeah. So of course you are not falling into this trap. You will see a false memory and you will not allow the subconscious mind to keep you there. And it's really easy once you know it, because it's pretty, the subconscious mind not very creative. It's not very creative. It's always the same, that it wants to divert the conscious mind too. So a false memory is more than 80% of perceived past lives are false memories, right? And that only means the subconscious mind hides the current trauma behind a past life scenario. A scenario. So, example is always a false memory when the client sees a poor little girl or poor little boy in a dark room that looks like a dungeon, that brings you right into the medieval times, where they wear rags, they are cold, they're in shackles. That's what the subconscious mind comes up with. 100% false memory. The trauma your client is suffering under will not be from a medieval dungeon. I guarantee you that. It will be much closer to his now lifetime. And sometimes the false memory is exactly the opposite. The subconscious mind leads your client to being a princess or a prince, riding a camel, wearing jewels, being, praised at, feeling happy. If you are at the scene of a trauma, nobody feels happy. I can guarantee you that. Yeah. Nobody is in his happy space there. It is always a very, I would like to say, ordinary act of violence. Yeah. A day-to-day violence, often in the family. Talking about families, when the client, especially female clients, when you ask who is there with you, yeah, and they are looking at a perpetrator and they see their father, don't think that the father has abused them. That's also a false memory. The subconscious mind likes to put the father there instead of the man who was actually the perpetrator. Yeah. So it's important that you make sure that it is a right memory and it was the father, and not a false memory, and the subconscious mind just wants to put it in front of your nose because it feels safe to do that. How do we deal with false memories? Of course, you need to know that. What we do is quite simple. We say to the client, okay, this is not it. If you want to say it, you don't even need to say that. You say, okay, we leave it here, we go further. We just say we leave it here and now we go further. We go where the problem really originated. Yeah, you need to put this really out. And then you will, I would say, in more than 50% of all cases, be at the right one, maybe at another false memory, but it would look so alike that you can spot it. Yeah. But so far as I remember, I have not had more than 2 false memories in one session. So that would be unlikely. I think you maximum have to repeat that twice. So you just say, now you just don't comment on that. Whatever they see, whatever poor little girl they see in shackles and rags who's starving and all of this. You're not commenting on that. You immediately switch on, okay, false memories. And then you say, okay, now we go further back. I would not even say. We go now to where the problem really originated. And then I like to count to 3, 1, 2, 3, to just make sure that that is the point where the client starts to see things. Yeah. So I say, when I count to 3, at 3, you see where the problem was really originated. Right? Something like that. You can do that, but you don't need to count. You can say, okay, and now, or in 30 seconds, or you just give them something that they know, their subconscious mind, okay, now I'm there, right? It's always helpful. But of course you say 1, 2, 3, because it's quite easy. Or A, B, C, or it is not the counting that is important here. You get the picture, eh? Just give them something to guide along, because you are suggesting that they are going on a time travel, if you will. Any questions regarding this regression to a past life or to childhood trauma?
So what if, no matter how many times we try to guide them to the memory where the trauma originated, they cannot see anything?
Then you break it up.
Mm-hmm.
Of course. I would not try it more than 3 times.
Okay.
If the third try is also a false memory, then it's not the right time for the client. You can always, if you have not spent already all your time with them, if you still have time, then you can always, like what we do in module 5, put your figurines out and do a family constellation for them, or do an interrupted movement towards the mother, or or release an emotion or something. You can always do something if you have the feeling you want to end it on a positive note, especially in a one-on-one situation, and do something for your client. But definitely don't go further that route. That's not.
Rebirthing can also be tried. Rebirthing can also be tried if the regression
if you have enough time for it. If you have enough time, rebirthing, that always helps. Or in mother exercise, if you don't have enough time, a mother visualization or father visualization, I would do that if I have a one-on-one client, and let's say I haven't spent all the time already in the attempts to go in a regression with them, then I would do that. So we release an attached spirit, pretty much the same. It's just different words that you use. We go in alpha state with our client. That's the same, of course, Same, you ask the client to go to the current problem or pain, whatever they feel, keep it open, And then you don't need to do too many details now, because you're not going in a past life or to the childhood, because you know already that you are dealing with an attached, what did we say, stuck soul instead of spirit. You ask them, which person comes to mind? Do you see a person? Is any person come to your mind? Completely unrelated. They don't need to know what you're doing. And they will just say to you, I see an old man. Or I see a young woman. Or I see my grandfather. That's actually rare that they see a family member. It's more that they see an old or a young person, female or male, something like that. And then you know, well, that was the last lifetime of the soul they have caught, the trapped soul. Then you ask your client if they see this person in a color, because we want to work with the color. And they might see it. And that would be good. If they don't see a color, that's fine. You will find out the color later. But you can already here see if they have the picture of the color. Then you would send the person all his and her energies into the color, right? That's exactly what we have done already with the emotion. It's exactly the same with the attached soul. And you fill the remaining gap space with light. So that is nice and filled up, because it leaves in the energy field of your client, it leaves a gap when the attached soul leaves. You maybe also want to work with the soul child when the client sees themselves as a child. Make sure that they are uniting again, because that just means that the child has been left behind somehow in this scenario. And I forgot to mention that here, but as always, you need to let the client see how the attached soul and the color and the shape you sent them off to is dissolving, is going. They need to see that, and not into the white, because that is hiding. They need it really to vanish, and then that is done. So it is the same steps. So you're combining a regression with the releasing of an emotion, if you will. Yeah? Now, the juice in this comes when the spirit doesn't want to go, the attached soul. Now, that's interesting, because then you actually, as a facilitator, start a conversation with them. And that's quite interesting often. Yeah. You can ask the client, because the client is visualizing, not you. You would ask the client, tell this person that they see, ask them what they want. That's a good start. Ask them what they want. And he would actually get kind of an idea of an answer. And then when the answer is they want to, I don't know, they want to stay, then you say to your client, suggest to your client to say to this that they cannot stay. That's not their home. It's not their body. Yeah, it's talking to a child that doesn't understand, hasn't learned something yet. And tell them that he is dead. Tell this person that it is dead. They don't know that it is dead. Yeah, and all of this. So you would very gently remember compassion for all beings. There's nothing nasty about the attached soul. It's not a bad person or bad entity. It is simply lost, so it needs your help, right? And it would not listen to you if you wouldn't have compassion and love for it, obviously. Yeah? So you need to be in this state of compassion and unconditional love, and then guide this attached soul to the knowledge or to the realization that it can't stay, because it's not the home, not their body. They kind of, I like this picture of they missed the bus or they missed the train, you know, going through the tunnel when they died. They just missed it, and tell them that the next train is now leaving, and they can now take the train, you know. And then some processes are a little bit longer, others are quite instantaneously, but that is always working. And then you let this attached soul see the color, a door or gate or whatnot, and tell them that their family, their soul family, is waiting for them there. And then that would normally ignite their curiosity. And then they would look there, and then they're already detached from the client. Yeah. And then you guide the process that they go towards it, that they go through the color, and then that the client sees how the color is completely, utterly gone. And that's it. And then you close the session, bringing the client out of alpha state back into the room where they are, and job done, if you will. Yeah.
Are you directly talking to the spirit at any point, or you're asking the client to address them?
Normally I ask the client to do that, but I do remember some occasions where I talk directly to them. So you can do that, but you need to know what is more comfortable, and especially what has a greater impact on the client and on the attached soul. What, you know, if they are listen to you, if you are the authority there, or if they listen to the client better. Yeah. So it's not wrong. It's not wrong. You can do that. Because you're not representing anybody. You are the counselor, if you will. You are the mediator. You are in your role as a facilitator when you talk to the spirit. Possessive energies is exactly the same. It's just normally quicker because they are normally easy to remove. Like that's an emotion that somebody has caught. They don't have like an identification like the soul that is fighting for the right to stay, you know. So that's more easy, like a little bit like the exercise you did yesterday. So again, alpha state, then you ask the client to see the current problem or pain they are feeling and ask this not for a person this time, because it doesn't have an identity, if you will, not a life, not a past life or a life that has just finished with the body. So it's just an emotion. So you ask for shape, texture, consistency, color, you know, what do they see? And when they can describe it, send this object into the corresponding color with the corresponding shape. Yeah. And then see how let the client see them, how they combine and completely vanish, and then you can be sure that this energy, this emotion is released from the client. And also fill in remaining space with light, always the light from within, not from outside. That's always from within. Again, if the child was involved, if the client sees themselves as a child in any of the visualization, always make sure that the child is together with the client and not following wherever you are releasing. Yeah. It's not always there, but when it's there, don't be surprised. Then you just make sure that the client and the soul child of the client is fusioning, is combining. So it can't leave without each other. Nobody can leave without the other. That's when you ask the client to take the child into the heart, and then they come both in closing out of the session, like we normally do. So how do we do all of this? Was all you can do that in a group session, of course. You can work one-on-one in a group session. Bert Hellinger has done that a lot without naming it in this way. But this is more in one-on-one sessions when you do this regression normally, yeah. Because in a family constellation, you can normally deal with representatives and they can do that. Even to detach trapped souls, you can use representatives, as I told you yesterday. So that's all possible. However, when you have a family constellation, and within the family constellation, you see, oh my gosh, that is not actually an ancestor or an entanglement you're dealing with, but this is a foreign energy, yeah, a possessive energy or an attached soul or something like that. Then you would choose a representative for the client for this energy, and the third person, which is later the home for this attached energy. Yeah. You observe the movement of the representatives just to reassure yourself that that's what you're dealing with. Because it could look like an entanglement because there are three persons involved. But what the difference is that the attached energy or soul is literally clinging to the shoulder, either left or right, of the representative of the client. It's quite obvious once you have seen it in person. You cannot be really mistaken. It's literally clinging to it, yeah, and always turning with them so they can never see it. Yeah, so that's very typical. So then you know, yeah, nah, that is not an entanglement. That's definitely a foreign energy. Take your time, of course. Just in the family constellation, there's no rush there. Ask the client to see the color around the possessive energy. Place a third representative at the end of the room. That would be the same color, representing the realm where they're supposed to go to. And then let the client say to the energy our magic words, thank you. Thank you, allowing to part Thank you for staying with me. Now it's time to part. That's the healing word, yeah? You belong to someone else, not me. You can also say, you cannot stay here. This is against the universal law, because it is. And they know that once you say that. And then let them look at the third person. This is your home. They are waiting there for you. And this is the way you guide them home. And then you send the representative of the possessive energy and all his or her energies towards the color. Of course, you can only do that when they are willing to go. So the words, the thank you and all of the other words are preparing the soul to move, like in a family constellation, like a normal family constellation where you are after the soul movement that they should actually perform out of own will because they failed the decision to do that. We are not making them move. Make sure the client is watching the representative uniting with the color, same thing, and then finish the constellation. You don't need to deal with alpha states here because you have representatives. That's completely unnecessary. That's only when you only work with your client and they need to visualize everything. Here you have representatives. Nobody needs to visualize everything because they show it to you. So it's much easier, of course, to do all the steps. So it would be great if you can practice that in a small group of friends and families. Okay, now we have our exercise.
Just one question. The color, so the color that they go home into in the end, is it always the same color that they initially saw?
As far as I have observed, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, because that is the color they have become as a soul, and that's the state in which they have to, in which they would, the only color they would be attracted to. Yeah. Okay, so I will demonstrate a regression, and then you have a little go. You don't need to go into full-fledged regression. I just want you to have 5 minutes spent with a partner to play around and see how far you can go. If you remember a few steps, yeah? So, or we might skip the exercise because we only have 20 minutes and I just do the regression, and then you can practice maybe with you know, somebody close to you who is willing to volunteer. So that is now, let me stop sharing. Who wants to have a regression? No, Jyoti. The only one? Okay, very good. Then what is it about? Tell me your problem.
My problem,
or your issue.
you have, yeah, it's a huge fight with my husband, and a lot of, I'm creating a lot of trouble for my son. So, I mean, that's the primary problem in my life. I don't know where to, how to specify.
Do you have any bodily symptoms? Is there any illness or disease you have?
I'm not able to eat. I feel hunger, but I'm not able to eat.
Aha. That means you don't eat?
Yeah, I do. I refuse to eat, even though I'm hungry, I'm weak. I don't eat.
I think we go with that. Since when do you not eat?
Since yeah, since I was a very young child. I remember my mother also saying that she doesn't eat.
Your mother was saying she doesn't eat as well. Okay. So of course we do a regression, and we do a regression to the problem. We don't know if that would be a childhood trauma, if that would be a past life, or if it would where it leads us. That's good. We don't need to know that. We will see. Yeah. So close your eyes now, Jyoti. Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you say?
My son is showing exactly the same thing lately. He refuses to eat.
Yeah. Very good. Okay. Close your eyes, relax. Just keep your spine upright because we don't want your client to fall asleep, so not too relaxed. The shoulders need to be relaxed, the jaw, the eyelids are heavy, the eyes are always closed. And I will speed up the process a little bit, of course, right? So we're not going. Okay, I would like you to relax and come to your safe space where you feel no fear, where there's no feeling of guilt or shame, where you're at peace, where you're safe, where you're in control. Every breath takes you right there. And from this space, we go back in time where this problem is originated. And when I count to 3, you will be able to see the situation clearly. 1. You will remember every detail and be able to report it to me. 2. And you will be completely free of any emotion, fear, guilt, or shame. 3. With your eyes closed, you look at your feet. What do you see?
I just Ashna just said going back. I saw my father screaming and shouting.
I didn't get that. Can you repeat? What do you see? Not what you remember, what you see. Yeah? Go.
My father's very angry and he's shouting.
Ah. So can you see your feet?
Yeah.
Okay. What do you wear?
Wait. Yeah, now I see some others. I mean, I'm currently bare feet, so I'm seeing them, but I also see somebody with slippers, very old slippers. Yeah.
Somebody with what?
Slippers, wearing slippers.
Not you, somebody else is wearing slippers.
Yeah, I'm currently bare feet, so I see, but I see a darker foot with wearing slippers. Yeah.
Very good. Very good. So just a mental note to everybody that the father was there in the scene is not the problem, right? That's important to know. Okay. If you look up on yourself with your eyes closed, what do you wear? Do you wear a skirt? Do you wear pants? What color do they have? What fabric is it?
I'm not able to look away from the leg, the dark leg and the slipper because there's only one leg and slipper. And once I don't see the other leg, so I'm kind of stuck there.
Then follow this. Before you do that, tell me, do you feel cold or warm?
I'm warm, yeah.
You're warm. Are you indoors or outdoors?
Indoors.
Is the room dark or filled with light?
Very dark.
Very dark. Are you sitting, standing, or lying down?
I'm sitting.
Where are you sitting? On a chair? On the floor? On the bed? On the sofa?
On a chair.
On a chair. How old are you?
Teenager.
Okay. We are going further back in time. And when I count to 3, you'll be able to see where the problem is originated, where the problem started, exactly where it started, no matter when it was. 1. And you will have no problem to see the situation clearly. 2. And to describe it to me. 3. With your eyes closed, what do you see when you look down?
I could see something before you asked me to look down. And once I look down, it's dark.
What did you see before?
An old man, but not familiar.
All right. How do you feel when you see this old man? What do you
Angry.
feel? Angry. You feel angry?
No, I had seen an old man
Yeah.
with long white hair, long white mustache, long white beard, and he was angry.
He was
And then
angry.
when you asked me to look down at it,
Everything was dark. Okay. How does it make you feel seeing this old man being angry? What do you feel?
it's like I'm watching a movie. I literally see. I'm
Describe it.
detached because I'm watching a scene in a movie.
Yeah. What is happening?
Yeah. Where he's training a woman, and he is very very stern and strict, and he has powers.
He has?
Powers. He has powers, special powers.
Who is the woman? Can you describe the woman?
You know, Maya, I'm just getting movie scenes back now. I'm only seeing movie scenes. It's a movie. It's a movie I've seen.
Ah, I see. Okay. We go back more. Leave that behind. Your subconscious mind is able and willing to reveal the information needed that will lead us to the source of the problem right now. Start with yourself. Look down with your eyes closed. What do you see?
Yeah, it's me sitting right now where I am.
What was it?
I see myself sitting where I am sitting right now.
So you are back where you are now.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we'll leave it here for now. Yeah. Okay, you can open your eyes. Thank you for volunteering. That was interesting. Now you have seen how false memories look like. Yeah. So don't go anywhere there. It's a waste of time. Don't go anywhere closer. So the first false memory was when she said she was a teenager. We know that cannot be the problem. Yeah. Not only because we know regression into the teenage years is not enough, but also she said she has the problem since she was a little kid. Yeah. So obviously, of the teenage years has nothing to do with it. Maybe a trigger, but we are not worried about the trigger. We want to go to the trauma, right? We don't want to go to the trigger. The second false memory was what then turned out was a movie scene. So it was great that Navjyoti was able to detect that. Not every client can do that. Yeah. So obviously that was a false memory as well. And then when I insisted that the subconscious mind is now working with us, she was back in her room. That is a sign of that it is a really severe trauma that has happened either in childhood or in past life, and the subconscious mind is not willing to cooperate. Yeah, that's okay. It doesn't mean that's the end of the story. Yeah, we will try again for sure, and every time it will be more willing to cooperate. But I think you have actually learned more from this exercise than if it would have been a regression, because now we have pretty much all false memories other than the dungeon. That would be probably the next one, that the subconscious mind can deliver. And it will only do that once. It will not do that again. So thank you for volunteering. That is that. I'm sure we either have time in Module 5, or you see it on a workshop, or we do it in a practice workshop that you if you want to, we can do a regression if you want to see one that is actually coming to the source of the problem. Because it's late and we have finished, we're not going into this exercise, but as I said, grab your notes, maybe watch the video recordings next week again, and then practice with each other. You can do that. You can FaceTime over WhatsApp or whatnot, if you wanted to, and practice what we have talked about in Module 4. Nothing is as good as practicing it and experience it for yourself. So last questions to whatever we have talked about this weekend. Yes, Saida.
Thank you, Maya. You know, when you spoke about dealing with foreign energies, and you said about the third representative, like, how do you explain to the representative and to the client what that third representative is for?
You don't need to. The good thing is about when we use representatives, that they don't need to know for whom they are standing. And that goes also for every single family constellation. So you don't need to say you are the grandfather, you are the mother, you are the brother, you are the perpetrator. No. You can just put representatives up and the morphogenetic field will take over the roles. As long as you know for what it stands.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the representative doesn't need to know. It's even better if they don't know it, because then their feedback is so much more accurate. I mean, it's always accurate, but it's more like you can be sure it's accurate because you are sure they can't make anything up because they don't even know whom they're representing. Yeah.
It's interesting because I haven't seen a constellation yet where a representative hasn't been given a role. So maybe in the practice we could.
Yeah, definitely. We do that a lot. I wonder that, for example, sometimes when we add.
I think you're stuck.
Frozen.
Sorry,
sometimes when we add a representative, because we know it's a missing person, but we are not defining who that is. we don't rename them. Then the representative doesn't know what role they are playing.
Okay.
Yeah. So we do that quite frequently. Yeah. What we don't do normally is to have an entire constellation with, let's say, 5 representatives and nobody knows for whom they stand.
Yeah.
That's true. We don't do that because in a virtual setting, I think that is very confusing. It's hard to track. However, Bert Hellinger has done that in person. He called it the multi-dimensional family constellation. He has just asked 20 people to get up. 20 people to get up. He was sitting on the chair. He was observing. Nobody said a word. Nobody was allowed to say anything. And they were just moving around. And that was actually a long constellation, over an hour. No words. And you have seen how people collapsing, some people finding each other, other going away. So nobody knew. He didn't know, the client didn't know, the participants didn't know, the representatives, nobody knew whom they are representing. They just knew they are one family system and the morphogenetic field is guiding their movements. And it's very slow and no words saying, so it's not good for virtual at all because you don't see movements. But in this situation, all the movements came to an end, and that was the end of the constellation. So that does happen, but that's definitely not what we do on a regular basis, and definitely not virtually. Yeah. But we have occasionally 1 or 2 representatives in a family constellation that we don't know yet who they stand for and maybe never know. Yeah. That's possible. Definitely. Okay. Any other question?
Is there a reason the subconscious brings up the father as a false memory?
Yeah.
Or
yeah, that's a reason. The reason is that the child is in a situation where it wants the protection of the father. So most likely the father wasn't there. If the father would have been the perpetrator, it would look different. It would look like the client. Let's say it's a childhood regression, yeah. The child client, the one in the regression, is not able to see the face. If they know it's a man and they can't see the face, it can be the father. But if they see the father, it is not the father. Then they wish the father would be there to protect them, but he wasn't. Yeah. So this is how you know. Good question.
Yeah, even today, the first thing you asked me, the first person I saw was my father.
Yeah.
In today's exercise also.
Mm-hmm.
He was angry and shouting, but
yeah. So it was definitely somebody else in this case. Yeah. I know it's really fascinating. It's really fascinating, this work.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I just want to share because this might benefit others. It's extremely personal, but for years and years and years, I've had dreams about my father abusing me, and it has never happened in real life. I mean, like any Indian father, he would beat us up. Yeah. I mean, which every Indian kid goes through. But I had dreams of severe abuse from him, which were not true. I knew in my waking life that they were not true. So yeah, that's amazing.
Exactly how the subconscious works. And the subconscious mind is always in play at night. So that's exactly how it works. So there was an abuse, there's no question, but it wasn't the father. And your subconscious is not willing just now, today, to reveal it. But it will come. You just continue on your path, Navjyoti. Relax. It all comes in its own right time. And every step we take, everything you understand, every exercise, every constellation, whatever, is a step towards the healing, the goal of healing. Saida.
Can I just ask, like, when we're talking about abuse and trauma here, it's not just physical abuse, right? It can be psychological, emotional, it can be anything.
Anything. Yeah. Mental abuse, yeah. Gaslighting, I think it's called. Yeah. Yeah. It doesn't need to be sexual neither, of course. It could be any kind of violent impact on either the body or the emotion, the emotional body or the mind. Yeah. Very good. Any other questions? Okay. So we round up module 4. I hope you have seen how this all fits in the greater context of facilitating family constellation and providing systemic coaching. All the little steps that I have introduced you to are forming a whole in the end, and you will see full circle after a while how that everything comes together. And when you see the video recordings, of course, you will probably have new insights or more understanding of some details. Other details you might don't find so interesting. That's fine. Concentrate of the ones that are touching you. That would be the ones that also are part of your healing path, of course. Wonderful. So the next time I see you, I believe, is for Mother's Day workshop, if you can make it. It's Mother's Day in New Zealand. I'm not sure where in the world is it, but if we have a special workshop about the mother, we will look at the mother relationship in more detail in this workshop. Okay, and then after that, we have module 5, and then after that, we have the next practice workshop, I think. That's the way it's mapped out at the moment. Yay, you're almost there. And don't forget, when you have finished with your modules, this is not at any means an achievement or an end. This is the beginning. Because only the foundation are laid now to work with what you have listened to and experience it. And that's the most important part of the work. And that you can see in the workshop when you watch a video, when you watch another, when you go to another facilitator, whenever you are in this area of family constellation, now you can put it all into a context, right? And before it was not so. So that's the exciting part of the training. Okay. Well, good. So I hope I have the video recordings up in a week. So after the next weekend. And I have understood that I have to post on the website so that you know it's updated. So I will post there. And then you should see in the training community that I have linked the video recording. Okay, well, I wish you...
Maya, regarding the video that we were supposed to watch yesterday, can you just upload it separately also on our group on the website?
It will be part of the module 4 part 2. It will be on the video recording. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I have recorded it and you will be able to watch it. Yeah? Awesome. Very good. Well, I wish you a good night, a good day, wherever you are, and I see you soon.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.